So I'm just going to make some general comments. In terms of meditation, there's what we call meditation, which we generally associate with formal sitting, and what we call post-meditation. And actually, they're both really important. So, for example, you might have seen Lily going around piling up stones on the paths. These are what we call like stupas, right? The indigenous people used to do it as well. If you go on the plains of Tibet, anywhere in Asia, pretty well anywhere in the world, the Celts used to do it. They would find a significant place and they would pile some stones. It's part of your practice of mindfulness. It's what we call post-meditation. There's all kinds of things associated with post-meditation. So when you're going from your practice sessions, going to the dining hall, and then you're eating, you're practicing mindfulness, that's a type of post-meditation. And these are things that support your normal formal sitting. And so they're really important if you want to develop your own practice, to always remember. Also, if you need to sit on a chair, you can, for the teaching, you can sit at the back on a chair as well. So just know that you don't have to suffer cross-legged. You know, maybe sit in meditation cross-legged and then take a break in teachings. You know, I don't want to burn you out before the end of the week. And if you attend like the yoga classes, right? So I'll break you in the morning, and then Jeanette will fix you, and then you can get on with the rest of the day. So I'm going to talk about these prayers. And this is associated with what we call post-meditation. It's part of the framing of practice, right? So we didn't do any prayers. For example, I think last night I said at the end it's good that we kind of dedicate any virtue or merit for whatever we've practiced to the benefit of other beings. And that doesn't seem like a formal thing like praying related to religion. But most people connected with that idea. I saw a lot of people would sort of bet their head down or did this or thought, you know, yeah, that's quite a good thing. That's what using prayers is like. For example, if you're going about, you say mantras, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. That's also a way of reinforcing your practice. So there's two things associated with Mahayana path. There's this wish to achieve transcendence or awakening. And then there's this wish to do that for the benefit of others. Two aspects. They're what are called the two benefits, self-benefit and other benefit. And they're intertwined, they're interlinked. They're not separable. Because by achieving awakening, what we do is we make the world a better place for others. And especially if we achieve awakening for that goal itself, it doesn't become a self-centered goal. And so what we normally do, as I said, there's something called the three excellences. It's the framework for practice. So we're going to have a formal sitting session, right? Formal meditation, then you're going to sit on your bum and try your best to stay focused. Like this morning when we're meditating, some people start going, right? Or other people are going like this. And so what we try to do, we remind ourselves, I've got to kind of focus one pointedly. I have to try my best. That's the main part of the practice. You apply yourself as best you can. I mean, basically, there's no point in coming all the way here from, you know, the other side of the world and then just wasting your time, right? And like waste my time, waste your time, waste other people's time. So we have to try our best. And the excellent beginning, the preparation, is where we remind ourselves of why we're practicing. And there's different reasons. We're going to talk about that in this document, right? There's worldly reasons why we practice, and there's spiritual reasons, and there's transcendent reasons. And they're all valid, you know? If you just want to be a happier, more stable person, no, but that's nothing wrong. The Buddha's not going to say, you're not allowed to do that. That's a bad motivation. In fact, the Buddha, if you look at the sutras, taught to anybody. It didn't matter who they were. If they were from a different religion, if they had no religion, if they confronted the Buddha with a question. And in fact, the Buddha didn't usually tell people what they should think, right? He got them to look at their own experience and their own, you know, the relevance of what they were doing for themselves, and then to come to kind of certainty. So I'm just going to briefly explain what these are about. So we have this prayer at the beginning, which is like to the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Sangha until enlightened, I go for refuge. What is it we call refuge? Refuge is where we identify there's an issue. We have worldly refuge, right? If you are in a war zone, right, and there's bombs dropping, then you're looking for somebody who's in the military to tell you where to go to safety, etc. If you get into a big multi-car pile-up on the motorway, you go for refuge in the paramedics. If you've got lots of chronic pain and crooked spine, you go to a yoga teacher. If you want to learn a new subject, then you go to college or university, right? You have a goal, and then you seek the people who have the things that are going to help you achieve that goal. And like I say, there's worldly goals and there's transcendent goals. I'm not going to go into too much detail because it's covered in the text. But basically, every kind of spiritual tradition has its founder or its teacher, right? You wouldn't say actually that Mahavira was the founder of Jainism because it was already existent, but he was kind of the teacher. There's what they teach and what their realization is. So what's in their mind that they have to transmit to others. That's the second thing. And then there's the community associated with that tradition. And that's the same for basically every spiritual tradition. Even these nihilistic traditions have that. There's something called the Charvakas. They're hedonists. They don't believe in anything. They don't believe in karma. They don't believe in God. But they still have, they had a teacher and they had scriptures. So it's kind of a religion, but it's a non-theistic and a non-kind of nihilistic religion. So it's true for all of them. And so every discipline has its own results. For example, if you go to university and you study engineering, then you can get an engineering degree. It's a process that gets you to that result. And it's the same. If you want to train to become a marathon runner, then you'll find some information, what kind of exercise you need to do, and then you have to train. It's a discipline. It's got a result. And so there are these worldly results, and there are kind of spiritual results. For example, the achievement of bliss, the achievement of non-thought, the kind of things the yogis did, right? These Hindu yogis, some of them achieve deep states of samadhi, so they can like sit on thorns and walk on hot coals and that sort of thing, or that they reside in bliss. Famously, the Indian Ramana Maharshi, then he could sit in meditation for like weeks and not be aware of anything. He had, when he was quite young, he was meditating, he would have like rats coming up and biting his legs, and he wasn't even aware of it because he was so deeply immersed in his meditation. That's a result of that practice. You might say, well, why on earth would I ever want to do that, right? The point is you have to kind of figure out what it is you're aiming for. And in Buddha Dharma, then we're aiming for something called liberation or transcendence, whatever that is. Maybe you don't believe in it, but these are the three things associated with that path. There's kind of basically two types of motivation in the Buddha Dharma. One is just to escape suffering. It's to be liberated means to escape mundane suffering. And the other is to become a Buddha, to save all beings from suffering. Those are basically the two objectives. We could talk about the Vajrayana, but it's a bit complicated. And so in this prayer, what we're doing is we're seeking refuge in the sources of that, of transcendence. And so for us, that is the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. But, you could say, if you were trying to be somebody who's like good at technology or something like that, there could be like the CEO of a tech company, his manifesto and his ethos and the company. It's associated with every organization, institution, but especially ones for learning and spiritual progress. Then the second part of that prayer, that is the prayer for what's called bodhicitta. It's the awakening mind. So remember I said there's kind of two types of motivation in Buddhism. One is just to get off the wheel of suffering, escape basically. Like suffering's too much, I can't handle it, I got to get out of here. And then the other one is to become a Buddha for the sake of all beings. Well, this bodhicitta or awakening mind is associated with the second. And to put it quite simply, that is limitless love and compassion. That's all it means, really. If you translate the word, it kind of means the mind of enlightenment. But that's because this intention is said to be the cause of final awakening. This giving up all my concern and only thinking about others with love and compassion, that mind is what a Buddha realizes. So that's why we call it the mind of awakening. We pray that this, for those who haven't got it, then they develop it. Right? And if those who do have it, so it doesn't diminish. And then furthermore, that it should just continue to grow and grow and grow. And in fact, that's the process of developing the awakening mind, is to strengthen it. And typically what we do in the Buddhist methodology is we take an object that we naturally find it very easy to give rise to love and compassion for. For example, we see these little deer out here, right? Little baby deer. And you immediately are like, oh, the sweet poor thing, it's scared, it's running away. It's natural to us. And it's really difficult in the West, but in the East they say, you use your mother as your focus. And when I say that to Westerners, they're like, but I hate my mother. It's really difficult. It's not like that in Asia. Even if they've never even known their mother, if they were adopted at birth or something like that, they still realize that they wouldn't have come into this world and had these opportunities if they didn't have a mother and a father. Anyway, putting that aside. You have this object that it's very naturally easy to have love and compassion for. And then through cultivation, which is what we call practice, we kind of strengthen that strength. It's like a fire. You have a little fire, it's really small, and you go, and it gets bigger and bigger. And that's what we pray for. Now, I just want you to compare. This morning we came in, we just sit down, we practice. We need to compare what it's like when you do that and when you start it formally with some kind of aspiration. And this aspiration is personal. So if you're not engaging in this particular dialogue, this particular prayer that's being said here, I want you to think to yourself, why am I practicing? Why am I here listening to this guy? Right? Why would you want to come here and listen to me 2 hours a day for a whole week? Like, I didn't force you, right? You were interested in something. So you have a motivation, a reason for that. So when we start a meditation session, we start a teaching session, when we say the prayers, if you guys don't join in, that's fine. But I want you to think to yourself, okay, why would I get up at 5 a.m. in a cold room and sit down at 6 a.m. and spend an hour with my legs aching? Why would I do that? Why am I doing this? And then you'll have a reason for that. Fix that in your mind. And that is the impetus for your practice. So that means it will encourage you to practice well. And at the end, what we do is universal, is we remind ourselves that anything positive that's associated with this interaction is being done for the benefit of others. Right? It's a beneficent thing. It's a thing that's based on the mindset that wants others to be happy, to make the world a better place. And then when you do that, you frame your practice in a very kind of clean and pure way. And then as you go out, that comes with you. And then the post-meditation is to remember when you're eating, when you're going to sleep, when you're walking, going to the toilet, having a shower, whatever it is, you remind yourself that it's all part of practice.